Living in Virginia, you're in the fast lane on the information superhighway. We've invested $3 billion in Virginia's broadband network to give you one of the fastest internet connection speeds in the world, so you can build relationships, bring new business to our state, and meet the future of education. It's amazing what we can do together. Visit VCTA.com to learn how broadband connects the Commonwealth.
From the General Assembly and the City of Richmond, I'm Woody Evans for Cable Reports, brought to you by the Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and Comcast, connecting Virginians to their government. Let's welcome Delegate Tony Wilt from Harrisonburg. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you again, Woody.
Kind of busy around here this short session. Why?
Oh, it's short session is code for long session with the same amount of work. and with two less weeks to do it in.
That's amazing. Now, you still serve on agriculture, and I believe you still chair subcommittee number 3, which has a lot to do with the Chesapeake Bay.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Tell us about how things are going with the Chesapeake Bay these days.
Chesapeake Bay is an exciting story, Woody. It's cleaner than it's been in about 40 years overall. Now, this year, you well know, we had an exorbitant amount of rain all season, so rivers got up, took more things to the bay, and so that caused some problems, and especially like the new baby oysters, we lost a lot of them this year. But it wasn't because of pollution; it was because of all the fresh water dropped the salinity in the bay, and that's what got them. And so, but overall, the health of the bay is increasing. We're seeing an increase in the seagrass. Oysters are an all-time high. Crabs, clams, and so it's an exciting time. We still have work to do. We've got new water standards that are going to be soon upon us, and we've got to keep working to make it even better.
Have there been any developments in technology, or other innovative methods to help maintain the health of the bay? What about on the agriculture side? Have there been new developments that help maintain the bay?
Oh yeah, some of the things we have, like no-till planting and so forth. That's been around a while. But now, in the age of electronics and I don't know the proper term that I want to use, but technology overall with artificially guided farm equipment, making better use out of their property and doing things properly there. Satellites, driving the tractors, and all kinds of stuff that I don't understand a lot of it, but it has. It's working towards those, being able to disturb the ground less, which creates less erosion, which helps the bay.
Now, people don't realize how much agriculture and forestry means to the state of Virginia. Talk to us about the impact of those industries.
Number one industry. We often think, if a person was to guess, we think, oh, Northern Virginia with all the big things that are there, but you're exactly right, Woody. Agriculture and forestry is Virginia's number one industry.
So what kinds of crops are we talking about that are being produced as a result of agriculture?
Oh, corn's big, especially with the ethanol mandates from back several years ago. That's increased. The farmers have increased production there. Soybeans, we were enjoying exports, record amounts of soybeans going to other countries, and obviously then some of the things that we do here locally. Locally being in the state of Virginia, just our own production, beef, cattle, dairy, and so although dairy is a different story, they've really taken a hit. But by and large, some of the things that we use here for ourselves is in the way of crops.
And I know there's a push to be able to farm hemp, for example.
Oh yeah, that's an exciting story. They took care. They've helped us at the federal level by taking it off the same list as marijuana and recognizing for what it is. It can be, it's innocuous plant with a lot of great uses, from the plant itself to the oils to the seeds. So yeah, there's a good future for industrial hemp here in the state of Virginia. It's very durable. I'm excited. We have some friends there at home in very close to the district that have been working with James Madison University, Virginia Tech, and developing and growing, experimenting so far. But now that they've taken these measures at the federal level, it's going to open it up for us a great deal, and I'm excited about the potential for other areas. We're pretty fortunate right there in the central part of the valley as far as agriculture and ag crops, but the potential in other areas, maybe more distressed in parts of Virginia, maybe where they lost tobacco, that some of these things can be.
Like Pennsylvania County, for example,
yes,
that
sir.
area?
Yes, sir. Could be that this could be a new cash crop for them. And
what about timber, forestry? I take it a lot of that obviously is used in home construction?
Oh yeah, there's a wide use of the timber that we grow here, and the forest management. You talk about technology, the new things that are developed there, getting more bang for our buck, if you will, as far as the actual, once you harvest a tree, the useful parts of it, being able to use more of those parts of the tree in various products, and also the applications. And so it's a very important industry, and obviously then putting back, regrow and keeping that next generation of our forest coming.
So you mentioned James Madison University. Is that the largest employer in your district? It
is. Yep. They James Madison. Oftentimes people would think of the educators and the students, but I mean, with a campus like they have, there's a lot of jobs in a lot of different arenas that keep the university going, from grounds and transportation and maintenance and all that. And it's a pretty big business.
So I take it there's a ripple effect to the economy because there are other businesses that have grown up around the university.
Oh, absolutely. The ancillary businesses that, fuel and parts and just, it's a wide variety. Food service, food has to come from somewhere. And so you're exactly right. There's a lot of businesses, ancillary businesses that have been developed and grown because of the impact of the university.
And of course, you're right on the Interstate 81 corridor there. And
Woody, you had to bring up 81.
I had to. I'm sorry. Tell me what are the problems there? I mean, I've been on 81. It's a truck farm sometimes.
Yeah, that's there's a lot more traffic. Folks like to point out the truck. There's more truck traffic than what it was designed for, and there's just more traffic overall. Got more people, more vehicles, and so it's really created problems. We haven't kept up with 81 over the decades like we should have as far as improvements, and I believe it's caught up with us. Now the sad thing is when there's an accident, things pretty well grind to a halt, and there's no place left to go. And so, we really need to take a look at that. That's an issue. There's some bills here this year. Sadly, we're right down here, almost a crossover. I wish we'd have had more time to work on that because there's a lot of opinions. One universal opinion that everyone has: do something about it. How we pay for that seems to be the question and the concern on folks' minds. And so we're going to have to continue to. I look for all the interested parties that are here, the legislators that continue to work on that. I don't have a direct hand in it, but I do have a voice, and so I'm watching the processes, what we end up trying to do to make improvements on I-81, because it ultimately, for the safety of our citizens locally and those that travel through, industry, that has a huge impact. When that truck full of goods is sitting out there, it's not getting to you and I, and so it's an issue whose time has come. We've got to move forward on 81 improvements.
To what extent, if any, is there a spillover effect when there's a huge problem on I-81 to Route 11?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there are folks, and then and I'm in the trucking business, Woody, so I'm not picking on the trucks. But the fact is, when you start putting tractor and trailers over on where predominantly it's designed for the occasional pass-through truck, but now you start kicking off, large numbers of tractor and trailers on there, it creates quite a mess, and then that moves over to the next road in our area, right where I live, maybe 42. And things like that. The problem starts spreading out, and so some of the improvements. Our immediate thought goes to construction, more lanes, and this, and which definitely some of that can be beneficial. But a thing that I've tried to encourage over the last few years is having more troopers. To be able to, we're understaffed in my particular area, as far as troopers being out watching speed. When you take a system out there and you have people, and I guess it applies to any road, but when you have people traveling anywhere from 65 to 85, with that volume of traffic, Woody, there's going to be problems. And so that was my hope, that we could see some more. That's going to be immediate. If we come up with money to do construction, it's anybody's guess how many years out it's going to be before we turn the first rock.
Yeah, and they're competing funding proposals. Some people are suggesting a gas tax. We just had Delegate Landis in here. He's indicating that would cost an average of 18 more cents on the gas tax. So that's probably not feasible. Then you've got a proposal for tolling. So I feel you when you say that funding is the real issue. Everybody recognizes that it's got to be done, but how do you fix it in terms of money?
Yep, and everybody has their thoughts. They like, you mentioned the gas tax. There's people that love that idea of raising it, and there's people that hate it. Same thing with tolls. There's some that love that idea and some that hate that. So we got to try to find a balance. My effort's going to be, Woody, is to try to look at the various options and what can we get the best bang for our buck. What the monies that we can potentially raise, and what we'll end up with, and what it'll cost us to raise that money. And so at the end of the day, how much money do we end up with on a per month, per year basis that can go towards fixing the problem? That's going to be what I'm going to try to find as we work through this process.
Yeah, I guess to a larger extent too, because of the Port of Virginia and the trucks that come out of there to carry traffic up the western side of the state. At some point, you're talking about losing money because those trucks can't make that traverse in the time needed to get goods to certain places. So you have to take that into consideration as part of the equation, because that Port of Virginia is another huge economic driver for the Commonwealth.
You're exactly right. That's so yeah, but it's not, the port's not there in a vacuum. We talked about ancillary issues around it and transportation. It's got to go somewhere. You got to have a viable system to get the goods out and about from the port. So you're exactly right.
Now, we've expanded Medicaid. There's more access to health care, but small businesses are still hurting in terms of being able to come up with some cost-effective way to cover their employees. I assume that you have the same issues, but I know there's some legislation that you have introduced, which is an attempt to move that ball forward, so to speak. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, you're right. It's a bill that I've put in to try to set up a framework that would allow small businesses to come together, you and I and what other folks that might want to join us, to form like a consortium that we would then be able to hire someone to negotiate our health care plans and try to find us a plan or plans that would be more affordable than you and I can afford separately. You got 10 employees, I got 15, but we come together, now we got 25, or we bring in someone else, now we got 50, we got 100, and there's just a better ability to negotiate better prices on what it's going to cost with the more numbers that you have. So that's the idea of it behind the bill.
So what kind of reception have you had as a result of the introduction?
It gets heard today, so
oh, good.
haven't gotten much response on the bill. I mean, it's been out there a little bit, but we'll see. see how it goes.
You mentioned dairy farming as being a little bit different from crops. I know you have a bill in dealing with tax credits.
Had a bill in, Woody.
Had?
Yeah,
Okay.
it met its demise, but I will say it made it to a finance subcommittee, and every person on the committee agreed with the plight. Woody, last year, 2018, state of Virginia lost on an average of one dairy farm a week.
Really?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's a distress, and unlike some other things that farmers do, the dairy farmers are kind of a unique class. Their hands are probably tied as much or more than any other farmer as far as the product that they produce and their ability to anyway have control of what that end price ends up being. And so it's pretty much out of their hands, and so they are a distressed industry. And so the tax credit bill, what I offered was to be able to give them just a little bit back, based on it was at varying levels depending on how many gallons of milk they produced in a year. And it was pretty high. It started like at 1 million gallons. So we're not talking about Woody's little farm where you got 2 cows of your own.
Right.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about viable dairy operations. But at the end of the day, the bill, and I also say it tied in, we were talking earlier about the Chesapeake Bay, there was part of the bill that tied in that now to be eligible for this credit, you had to have a nutrient management plan. And what that is controlling, taking various methods and process, best management practices we call, to implement on your farm to stream exclusion, putting up some fence to keep the cows out from messing up the water, if you will.
Right.
And so that issue was tied in with the bill as well. But at the end of the day, anytime we can talk tax credits or whatever, I mean that's somebody else is going to have to pay for it. You're going to be taking money out of the state budget, and it's going to cost them. It's got to come from somewhere. It's got to be accounted for. That's what I'm proud of, Virginia. We can't leave here till the budget's bound, like it or not. You'll get a little what you want, and hopefully I'll get a little what I want, unlike the federal government who just keeps kicking that can down the road. And I personally think if they had to balance that budget, it would cut out a lot of the problems, let's say, that they have up in Washington.
Yes.
But yeah, so the bill, while all the committee members agreed with me in concept, they said, I know there's this little accounting issue that we have to have. So the chairman was good enough to agree to send a letter to VDAX and have them.
What is VDAX?
Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services.
Okay.
Yep. Have VDAX work with the interested group, probably the dairy people, the Farm Bureau, the bill had support from a lot of our conservation groups, as they should, because we were going to help clean up our waterways. So there was overall consensus on the bill, but the letter that the chairman will send will direct VDAX to form a work group and look at this issue, how we can help our dairy farmers, going forward.
Is there a potential for agritourism throughout the state and in your district? Is that really taking hold?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's an exciting venture that we see that continues to grow each year. The farmers being able to carve out just a little bit more of a niche market, something they can do besides whatever, if they're dealing with any type of livestock or poultry crops, but then they're able, like a corn maze or those type of things. Oh, and we have some of those at home, and they're really well attended, adding a little bit more income for the farmers to help keep their farms afloat, and so it's exciting, and we see some of that. I guess would move into the whole arena of the wineries and distilleries and how that kind of dovetails on some farms, and so yeah, that's a realm that continues to grow, and it's exciting. At the end of the day, helping our farmers be more viable so that they can keep their land and it doesn't turn into development, and which sadly some farmers they get to the point they can't make money. Not enough to live on, so they either have to work a second job, and some of them are forced to sell their farm.
What about microbreweries? I understand that they're starting to be part of the economy in your district as well.
Oh yeah, we have several right there in Harrisonburg, and that's an exciting story. To again the entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Give folks the opportunity to start a business, and they're going to thrive. They're going to make something happen. So yeah, that's definitely exciting to see. In my area and all around the state.
You have a bill dealing with photo identification and a waiver of that requirement for people with faith-based beliefs. Talk to us about that.
You'd be amazed that primarily the two groups are the Old Order Mennonite and the Old Order Amish, and because of their faith, they don't allow their picture to be taken. Now that if you're riding by and you see one of them out working in the field or something, you can take their picture, but it's against their faith to pose for a picture. Well, they can't have a state issued ID as they're currently made, like a driver's license, or one to vote for people that don't drive. We have a couple of those. So the idea came. We have a pretty strong Old Order Mennonite community there at home, and the idea was brought to me last year about having this photoless ID, and because the problem they have in this age of technology and then security, couple with that, we see how people abuse technology. Well, then so that transcended into the whole area of security. So they would go into a place of business, buy a refrigerator. And the person, they're going to write a check, and the business, and rightfully so, who are you? Let me see an ID. Well, they didn't have an ID like you and I have. And so that's where the idea came from. It wasn't quite ready, as we say here, wasn't ready for prime time last year, but Commissioner Holcomb and his staff, they came up into our area, met several times with some of our friends there, the Old Order community, the Old Order Mennonites. There was a pretty large group of the Amish that came, traveled for multiple hours, that came to the meeting as well, and there was a good dialogue, and the commissioner and again his staff worked diligently to develop this. We came up with a funding plan that it will rest on those communities, those individuals, to fund it, so there's not a additional cost to the state. And looks like it passed Transportation Subcommittee this morning. That was the first vote on it.
Congratulations.
Yep, thank you. So we're excited that these individuals will be able to have this. Now, it won't allow them to drive, won't allow them to vote, and some of the other things. If you go to purchase, alcohol, I don't think they do that anyhow. But some purchases that you make that require a photo, they won't be able to do that because their picture won't be on it, but. They'll at least be able to buy a refrigerator or something. And the premise is, Woody, that one of our citizens shouldn't be punished because of their faith. Right. And so again, hats off to the commissioner and his staff and all the stakeholders that came together and worked out a good compromise. And I'm excited to. Hopefully, it'll pass.
Great. Third-party voter registration, you were successful except for a veto last year, so you're back at it again.
Back at it again, Woody. It was disappointing. I mean, it's with all of our legislation. Hopefully, we have a purpose when we carry that. And I certainly do. I don't want to infringe on legislative services time, the committee's time, and everybody's plenty busy. So I don't want to carry frivolous legislation. I don't think anybody does. Okay, but I think it's important enough, and the idea came to me from home from our registrars there, that sometimes folks work either by themselves or for an organization to register people to vote. Well, sometimes they make a mistake. There was, when it was presented to subcommittee, there was a registrar that got up and spoke on behalf of the bill. Said they had someone doing a registration drive at a college. On a college campus, and they were given misinformation. So all these applications were coming in that didn't have a piece of the vital information that needed to be on there for it to be a valid registration. And so all this legislation does is saying, if you're going to do this, put your name in a valid way for the registrars to contact you. Maybe you don't know this person from Adam, but it's just another step for the registrars to try to correct the application so the individual can vote. But I'm not sure why, but some people see it as I'm trying to thwart people's ability to vote, and I'm trying to help their ability to vote. But so we carried it again this year, and hopefully those that vote on it will be able to see it for what it is, that it's actually trying to help people, and there's not a penalty. If you're doing this and you don't put your name up, there's no penalty. They're still gonna have these potential applications that are wrong, and who's really getting hurt is the person that thinks they're gonna get registered to vote.
Fundamental issue pending before you, as always, is the budget.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, it's been complicated as a result of a tax cut bill that was signed into law last spring, I believe, in Washington, D.C. And Virginia has a decision to make about whether it's going to conform its tax code to the federal tax code. I know you're not directly involved in that, but I'm sure you have an opinion about what needs to happen in that regard.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Woody. And at the end of the day, citizens need to be able, if they're afforded an opportunity to get some of their hard-earned money back, we need to do so. And so that's my commitment to anything I can do to see that move forward. And so, yeah, we can conform to the federal regulation, but also allow them, if we need to change our processes here, to allow them to file differently, to get the most opportunity to get their money back. That's where I shake out.
And I guess something has to be done pretty quickly. I think there's a move to pass something today, because I believe the state tax forms are due to go out pretty soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm hoping that we can get something positive moving.
The other matter that's a perennial one, but it appears that there's a chance that it may pass, is a bipartisan redistricting commission this year. Talk to us about what that means.
I haven't looked at the exact details, and I'm not totally against the idea, but there's a reason that the redistricting's been in the hands of the legislature. That the idea, my interpretation of the idea is, it's better to have 140 people looking at it and approving the maps and so forth, and designing the maps, and having help obviously doing that, but basically designing the districts, and it has to pass federal. It has to go through the Department of Justice at the federal level, and it has to meet all the criteria that we have here. And I'm cautious of letting it depends on who those independent people, because Woody, everybody has an opinion. Everybody has a bent to try to find someone that's completely what's the right
nonpartisan?
Yeah, completely
There's no
nonpartisan.
such thing.
Wow, good luck with that on any issue that we deal with. And so that's my concern. If we can somehow form that, then I will be willing to look at it.
Great to be with you, Delegate Tony Wilt. Good luck.
Hey, thank you, Woody.
Thank you for watching Cable Reports, brought to you by the Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and Comcast. Until next time, I'm Woody Evans. Mm-hmm.